This is the Ninja Rob Podcast with Marco Perazzo and Tim Carpenter. The podcast for the true martial artist.
Again.
Wait. I'm always, hold on.
You're always confused about what?
What? So we just said that it's a Ninja Rob podcast.
And
so
then
do I say, what do I'm just.
You want to what?
I don't want to do anything. I'm just asking a question.
Since I'm the host?
Since he just said, welcome to the Ninja Rob podcast.
Who's he?
The guy, the
South African fella.
Do I say, again, welcome to the Ninja Rob podcast, I am? Or do I just go into, hi, I'm Tim Carpenter, owner of Hellfish Mixed Martial Arts, here with my trusty sidekick.
We all know that's not true. I'm not trusty nor my sidekick.
But you got to introduce yourself.
I am Marco Perazzo, head instructor and owner of New Jersey Martial Arts. I am hopefully going to be getting a lot of gifts tomorrow because it'll be Father's Day.
And one gift you could give Marco for Father's Day is a rating and review on iTunes for the Ninja Rob podcast.
Boom. There it is. Nice. Very, very good job. We're going to slide that in.
Yep.
Speaking of sliding things in, never mind. We'll keep it moving because everybody that I talked to expressly knew what I was talking about when I was referring to the goalie. Look, I don't want to get caught up in semantics with you.
I know, but
and your circular arguments.
So
can we get into
for sure? But I just want to say I understand the concept of the goalie being in place. I'll have to listen to the podcast because I didn't listen to it to remember the context.
By the way, you never listen to any of the podcasts.
No, I don't like to hear my own voice.
Imagine how I feel.
Yeah,
I know, but I listen to them. I
several times a week.
I gotta boost up. I gotta boost up our numbers. If I don't boost up our numbers, man, what are we? Bro, we're almost at 1,000 listens.
Combined?
Total.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're on our way.
Almost at it. Yeah, we really are.
Yeah, I try not to listen.
Yeah, I mean, who wants to hear what you have to say anyway?
Exactly.
So, coming out of the gate, a couple of weeks ago, Tim Carpenter made a statement that the rear naked choke was the king of submissions in jiu-jitsu, or the choke was.
And I was correct.
Now, we have some evidence. I have pie charts. I have graphs that might show a little bit different. I'll show it to the camera. Thanks to School of Grappling, who's an amazing Instagram account, went through and gathered the data of all of the trials. So the 2 North American trials, European, Oceania, every single trial, and broke down submission type and also actual submission.
So,
even though
submission type leg locks are superior.
Submission type leg locks are superior
this year.
Out of all of the submissions that were gotten, leg locks accounted for 177 of all submissions at the trials, which accounts for just a shade under 45%. Chokes, on the other hand, 164 and accounted for 41.5%, and arm locks, 53 total for 13.5%.
However,
go ahead. The number one submission.
The number one submission is the rear naked choke.
The singular.
Just as I said.
Right.
So, thank you for apologizing and finding mathematical evidence.
Can you give credence to the heel hook? Look, the next two are the heel hook.
Right.
Outside and inside.
Right.
If he were to just go heel hook, not inside and outside, then it crushes the rear naked choke.
Wait. Just heel hook.
You just went heel hook.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But we're not doing that.
No.
And neither did this guy. This guy's very intelligent.
But so let me ask you, what do you think? Do you think that this will start bubbling its way up into the actual ADCC? The world championships.
This isn't Matt. Because this has nothing to do with points. This is just the submission.
These are every single submission that he tracked.
Yeah, I would be interested to see from 2017 what the submissions were from the last World Championships.
So you have a couple differences that can occur, right? Because at ADCC, I believe their fields is 16 or 32 at the most, right? I mean, you competed in
16.
it. So a field is 16. So at the trials, I mean, anybody can sign up for the trials. Right. So you can have, and no offense to these guys that might be trashed that are doing the trials, but maybe they shouldn't be doing the trials and getting caught with submissions that may not work in a field of 16 against guys that have either, highly regarded and are getting invited or have qualified for it. So that would, I think we need a few more years of championships to see if this continues, this trend continues of the heel hook inside and outside, dominating and taking its way from the trials into the actual world championships.
Yeah, because I'm just kind of going off memory from 2017. There was, I think Gordon heel hooked 2 people.
Who did he heel hook?
He heel hooked Muhammad Ali and Cyborg.
Okay.
And then he guillotined Keenan. He rear naked choked Homolo.
He beat Shanji by advantage or by ref's decision, I believe.
Vanis by the same.
Yeah.
Ref's decision. So he was like 50-50 with chokes and heel hooks, I think, in that year. And I don't really remember too many other leg submissions that year.
Right, because
I'm sure there were.
I don't think Craig Jones didn't heel hook anybody, right? In his 2 wins that he had.
In 17?
No, he heel hooked Chael Sonnen, right? Because he rear naked choked.
Yeah.
Leandro.
Flying triangle.
He flying triangled Murillo, right? And then heel hooks the other guy, Chael Sonnen, who lost, got beat up by Lyoto Machida last night.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what the stats were from 17. And then again, like, not so much the trials, because like you said, anybody can enter the trials. And I guarantee what happens is people get, the lower level guys get super into heel hooks. And they enter the trials and they are just heel hooking each other.
Right.
And then it comes down to the finals of the guys that are like top level.
So I'm going to ask a School of Grappling, since we've just shouted out his Instagram account a couple of times. That would be an interesting study. Quarterfinals and better, what submissions? Because once you get into the quarterfinals, it's the 4 top guys.
Right.
Right. So what submissions are really making it happen there? That would be an interesting subset of this. And then compare that to what the actual world championships are showing us from a submission standpoint.
Yeah, for sure.
And then it could show people what it is they need to be working on a little bit more specifically if they want to be top level no-gi competitors. So thanks to School of Grappling, we will stay informed, and we got pie charts and all this other stuff.
Yeah, make more pie charts and see if we can. When is ADCC?
I think it's in September.
Okay. Have School of Grappling. I'm putting in a request that you compare 2017 to 2019.
The actual
world championships. Because the trials are, like you said, it's a bunch of.
Well, what if we get them to do the quarterfinals? Would that be 4 top guys in each weight class?
I'd just rather see the world championships.
Okay, interesting. All right. So we are loaded up with questions today. You want to read that first one?
I'll read the first one.
Yeah.
This is one of my students from Hugo Herr. Brown belt. Said, Marco, do you really think all Asians look the same?
Yes.
Because you had said that a while back.
Yes.
Okay.
Moving on.
No,
I'm kidding. No. See, I caught a little bit of flack for that from another Asian fella.
You were just trying to be funny.
No, not trying to be. It was being funny.
Racist?
Kinda. But anyway, so at your school you have, and it's funny because I've been to a couple schools lately, and I've never seen this many Asian students in one school in a Brazilian jiu-jitsu class, right? And all of your guys are all named Hugo, so that's why.
To you, they're all named Hugo.
They're all named Hugo. Yeah. So, and it all came from me misspeaking, teaching one time at your school and calling. I think I called Pete Hugo.
You called Pete Hugo, yeah.
And then Pete's another big Asian dude. And everybody became Hugo at that point. No, I don't think that everybody looks the same. It was an inside joke. I misspoke one time, and I just ran with it.
And you just ran with the racism.
I ran with the racism because that's what I really hang my hat on, is being racist and a bigot on top of it. But no,
so we've established that all Asians do not look the same.
No, but you
also have bad eyesight. So
I do, and I'm getting it checked out on Monday. You don't seem to care about my well-being. But anyway. What's interesting to me is that most of the Asian dudes that I see do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you would almost think that they're from the future.
What do you mean?
They could drive really well.
Oh, more racism. Nice.
No, just kidding. It's just like it's not the Asian stereotype that you get. It's like
what is the Asian stereotype?
Oh, come on. Book smart.
I don't know. I'm unaware of stereotypes.
Really? You are unaware. Bald-headed, tattooed, blonde-haired freak white man. You're unaware.
What kind of stereotype is that?
I don't want to. This is really getting off the rails here, but no, all those guys are super cool dudes. I was just at what school was I at? I was at Roots, which has now become Logic.
Nice.
He renamed it. and he's moving to some giant facility. And they had a bunch of Asian dudes there, and they were all super cool. And I called all of them Hugo as well. So yeah, keep it moving, man. Hey, what's up, Hugo? They don't know what's going on. All right, so moving on, guys. I love the Asians. This is from Mike Svicharny.
I think it's pronounced Sevcharny.
Well, he wrote it Svicharny.
Sevcharny.
This is from him. So if he doesn't know how to write his last name, he's got problems. All right. So Mike Svicharny, Hellfish MMA, white belt, 1 stripe. Seems to be very proud of that stripe. What was your process, obstacles along the way for Bellator, and how does one go about getting into a fighting organization like Bellator or UFC? So for me, the biggest obstacle was never having had a fight in my life that I had gotten paid for and taking it down that path. Tim Carpenter, what was your process into getting into Bellator, and what were some of the obstacles that you had?
I can't really think of any obstacles. The only obstacles I ever really had were injuries. But the obstacle, I guess, would be like getting recognition. Like you have to fight to get your name out there, and you either have to like have a large amount of unbeaten, like sort of an unbeaten streak, or beat some big names, or be exciting. You have to somehow get your name known in the fighting world, and that happens at a low level. But nowadays, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. You can go on the show. There's a lot more ways into it now than there were back then.
Doesn't Dana White have that YouTube show where he goes around with?
I don't know. I don't know if they still have looking for
a fight.
I don't know if they still have that one, but they have the Contender Series now.
Okay.
And they might have just kind of flip-flopped it. But you could be a celebrity and something else and get into the UFC now. Okay.
Or you could become, like have a big social media presence.
Right. Like if you're a fighter, if you have aspirations to fight, what you should, and you want to get into UFC and make money, or Bellator, is you should focus on developing like a big social media presence. Because they would look at that. If you have 20,000 followers on your social media,
and you have a good record,
and you can fight, you'll probably skip over a guy that might even be technically better than you, and has 200 followers. They'll almost always choose you because you're going to sell more.
So my question to you is so then how important is management to get into an organization like this?
Well, it's like anything else. I think the more connections you have, the better. So if you can align yourself with a team that has several fighters in the UFC.
So like an American Top Team or Jackson Wink.
Right, something like that. Like they're going to have, because when somebody drops out of a fight, and they're in your city, they'll contact that place first. They're like, hey, we need somebody for a last minute 185 fight. And then, you can get the call that way.
Okay.
And then you can get in, there's plenty of guys that have got in last minute, like Frankie Edgar. He was like a last minute replacement.
Okay.
He took a fight on like a week's notice and beat Tyson Griffin. And then he ended up becoming the champ,
Yeah.
I think there's a good amount, I can't name them offhand, but I think there's a bunch of guys that have got in that way.
So you have to make the most of the opportunity when you get it as well.
Yeah, you got to take the opportunity when you get it. Like,
so fight and win, social media presence, team, management.
Yeah.
So
and opportunity. Like I remember when I was offered my first fight in Bellator, the guy they offered me to fight, I was like, oh fuck, I don't want to fight him. But it was for okay money for a single fight, but it was also for a chance to get into the tournament. So it was worth it, But if they had offered me a fight like that in like I had got offered the same fight against that same guy years before that as my second fight, and I turned it down.
Right.
Because I was like, well, there's no use in us fighting now. It's going to be for like zero money and zero.
Right. So, and you and I have had this conversation in the past where sometimes boxing takes a better care of their young fighters, not giving them too hard of a fight, building them up. Where in MMA, it's almost like a point of pride where guys will take a fight, like you're saying, that maybe that's a fight that they should take when they're 10 or 15 fights in as opposed to 2 fights in because of how good these guys or the potential that they have.
Yeah. And it's a lot different than boxing because in boxing, unless you're like a guy like Lomachenko was like a champ in his second fight.
Yeah, but his amateur record, he was like, I think 300 wins.
Yeah,
and 2
most
losses.
MMA fighters, you should
build up your skills.
Take like 15 fights against, like 10 fights against low skilled guys, then 5 fights against some like mid tier guys, and then start.
Are you talking amateur, pro, mix of the two?
All combined.
Okay.
If you can get like 15 fights worth of experience, you're probably ready to fight in the UFC. But it's tough for you see a guy like Aaron Pico. It's like one of the who you said had amazing potential.
Yeah, for sure.
And he's like 4-3 now because he's had no chance to learn.
There's a question that we'll double back to him a little bit later, but the guys that he's lost to have been this last guy was 13 or 14-0 that he lost to, right? So they're not
Hungarian. Magyar.
Okay, cool. Does that mean something to me?
It should.
Why?
Because he's European.
Who cares?
You're European.
Who's Hungarian?
Me.
Your wife. Is your wife Hungarian?
I'm married into Hungarian.
So let's talk about this. All right. When did you start wearing a wedding band? Speaking of your wife.
I just got this at Target. I had my ring. She
really put a ring on it, huh?
Yeah.
Really locked it down, letting everybody know.
Yeah.
This is a little off-putting, bro. I've been married way longer than you. I refuse to wear one.
It's okay. You might not love your wife as much as I love my wife.
Man.
That's all right.
You're really putting it out there, aren't you? You can tell you're freshly married. No, but going back, I think they've given Aaron Pico, because of his skill, but also there's been rumors that he just destroys people in training.
Big deal.
I mean, I guess that might be part of the reason why he's not getting easier fights. Like Dylan Dennis seems to get some pretty easy fights.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Pico would probably not get the same ones.
I mean, you decide who you fight, especially if you're Aaron Pico.
Right.
Your manager should say, like, no, we're going to fight a guy. Aaron Pico's 0-0. We're going to fight a guy that's 0-0.
Right.
Aaron Pico's 1-0. We're going to fight a guy that's 1-0.
But what happens if you don't get,
1-1.
like, they're like, yeah, well, the other, we can't find you somebody that's 0. Aaron Pico at 0-0 is a lot different than some other dude that's 0-0.
Is he?
Well,
I mean, like, maybe on paper.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But, like, so his first fight was against a guy that was, like, 3-2 or something.
Okay,
the guy wasn't a very experienced fighter, and the guy.
I think that's an easy right. But to match him up record for record's a little bit hard because of the supposed accolades that he has from wrestling and boxing and the training rumors that you hear about.
So like this fight that he just had, any other fight where you see a guy that's 4-2 matched up against a guy that's 12, 13-0.
It's a give me for the 13-0
exactly.
guy.
So like what? This isn't wrestling and this isn't boxing. So who gives a fuck what Aaron Pico can do in training against boxers and wrestlers?
Apparently, Aaron Pico does.
Yeah, but I mean that's
or his management team. But yeah, I think that's a tough one. But I think Aaron Pico had a different path to the UFC as well because of, I believe he was a Golden Gloves boxer and also an alternate or a runner up for the world team in wrestling. So that's a heck of a skill set to walk in.
His career is interesting because he never wrestled in college, went right to like international competition.
It was like Henry Cejudo,
and never really went anywhere.
Right, unlike Henry Cejudo, didn't win an Olympic gold or become double champ.
And then he did kind of the same thing in MMA. He had no real amateur experience, no build up in his career, went right to the big leagues, and hasn't gone anywhere.
So he's not good. He's not good enough.
No, I think he's good enough. He's just, I think he's a little too impetuous.
Right, maybe believes in himself a little bit too much.
Yeah, which hey.
He's got. I mean, if he doesn't believe in himself,
if you have to have one or the other, it's better to believe in yourself too much than not enough.
But unfortunately, I mean, he's had some pretty vicious knockouts.
Yeah, he's not going to last.
No. CTE is a big monster in his upcoming. As he gets older. All right, moving on. So Mike Svicharny, fight, win, social media presence,
get to know people,
be on a big team. Those are some of the ways of getting into an organization. All right, I'll read the next question. So, are you going to get guests on the show? Who will they be? Are you going to insist that they are entertaining? Robert Jinga, or Herman, as we like to know him, black belt from Spear Jiu-Jitsu. Tim, will we be having guests?
We will have guests.
Yeah,
we're working on getting Kai Serm.
Yes, we've been mentioned. This is the third podcast we've mentioned.
I hope that's the only guest we ever get. Really,
just the one time.
Just him. And
what about JB?
Yeah, he can come on too.
Right.
But I think. Hopefully Kyle will come on more than once.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
I think he should be almost like a
standard every 4 or 5 weeks.
Anytime he's in town, he should be on.
All right, cool. We got to make that happen because he's definitely a friend of ours.
Yes,
but he's going to be entertaining. It's going to be an interesting conversation
for sure.
Yeah. But we'll have to. What I want to do is make sure that we let people know that he's coming, so that we can gear some wrestling related questions to him. Having worked, let them know that he's worked with 2 of the top coaches in grappling with Terry and Tom Brands, and now John Danaher.
And not just that, but he's coached himself. He's coached
at a very high level.
Several He coached
Gregor Gillespie,
Gordon Ryan, Chris Weidman,
Marco
Stephen
Perazzo.
Thompson. Like a lot of
high level guys.
Yeah.
All right. So Kyle Sermonera will likely be our first guest on. We're just dialing in when he'll be in here, and we would like for you guys to ask him a bunch of questions that we can all get in on. All right, Tim, your turn. You're up.
All right. This is from Ross Kelly, brown belt from Inferno Training and Performance, and he started with you, right?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
I try to visit schools when I travel for work, and I find it disappointing when schools force everyone to wear a specific color gi or lock them into purchasing branded school gear. I've even seen schools force visitors to purchase branded rash guard or rent a gi. You and Tim and been around a long time.
I told you I don't edit
been around
these.
a long
I cut
time.
and paste.
What is your opinion? This. I think he meant you and Tim have been around for
a long time. Right. What is your opinion of this? Right. So again, let's not editorialize.
Okay.
Because I just simply cut and paste these. It's merchandising, right? It's a stream of revenue for the school owner. So sometimes it's really difficult as a student if you're going to a school and it's one way, right? And you can wear whatever gi you want, you can wear whatever rash guard you want, you can wear whatever short you want, and then the school owner goes and changes the rules on you, right? He changes what the dress code is and says, all right, well you need to wear Hellfish rash guard. You have to wear Hellfish shorts, and you have to wear my Hellfish branded gi. So then the student makes a value judgment, right? Is it something that's that important to you that it's worth leaving the school, right? Are you that much against the gear that?
Well, he's saying if he visits the school.
But
he's
even
not saying if his school
But
changes.
he asked about our opinion on this, right? So this starts from a school mandating certain things, right? So. And then going into the specifics of his question. So every jiu-jitsu school that does gi jiu-jitsu tells you got to wear a gi, right? They're forcing that upon you, right? If you're doing no gi, you have to wear at least, I would assume, at least shorts, right? Some places let you go bare-chested, right? So that kind of stuff. It's really up to you as the consumer if that's what you want to deal with. If you're visiting someplace, it's always good to ask ahead of time, hey, are there any rules that I need to know about? I have my own gi, all this other stuff. Do I need to wear one of your branded gis? And some schools, even on their website, have a page dedicated to visitors. And the first time I saw it was this last trip to Detroit, where I was going to go visit a school, and the guy sent me the link for his. If you're a visitor, here are the rules that you need to understand. Mat fee. What was the apparel? So. I don't do it at my school. The only rules that I have from a gi perspective is that if you have white bottoms on, you have to wear a white top, right? Same thing with black and blue. And those are the only three colors that you're allowed to wear, visitor or not, right? And then from a no gi perspective, your t-shirt and or your rash guard has to match your rank so that we have just some sort of idea of where we are with belt rank. For visitors, that's not strictly enforced because not every visitor has a rash guard or a t-shirt of that color, so that I understand that. But I think, what do I think of it? I don't force any of my students to wear any of my branded stuff. They wear it by choice, and I'm very bad at merchandising. And I got a bunch of rash guards made for the first time in a long time, and I thought I was only going to sell like 30 of them. We wound up selling close to 100, right? So I didn't need to force people to wear it for them to buy it. Right. So I'm like, for me, it's not an important thing. That's my opinion now. Who knows? Maybe in 2 years I change and just like, everybody's got to wear it. But right now, just as long as it meets those minimum standards, white, blue, black, as long as it's the rash guard is your rash guard or t-shirt is the color of your rank, then you're good to go.
I think a lot of the schools that I know that do this are like some of the top schools in the world. Like Mendez Brothers does that.
Yes.
Atos does it.
Yes.
Solo does it.
Yes.
And I think it's more than just trying to sell stuff. I'm sure they're happy to have the money that comes along with it. Right. But I think it's more part of like, if you're here, like while you're training, you're going to follow our rules. You're going to be part of the team. It's sort of like setting the tone of like what a high level team.
Brainwashing.
No, it's just what a high level team. If you want to have high level team, you need to follow the rules of the team and go along with it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
It's like why they make everybody wear the same color in prison.
yeah. So I mean, I don't do it, but I also don't have a problem with it. It's if
Right. You make a choice if that's where you want to be and that's what you want to kind of subject yourself to.
if I see the value in going to Atos, and I really want to go and train there, I'll buy an Atos gi.
Right, or wear whatever
get a
gi that
rash
they
guard.
mandate.
Whatever.
Because I think if you go to AOJ, it has to be a white gi. I don't think it has to be an AOJ
Right.
gi. And that's fine, right? Those are their rules. Like it's not the same thing, but when I went to watch again our buddy Kai Serm train at Johan's gym, and he's like, "Hey, can you come watch me train?" Because I was going to be cornering him for one of his fights. I was like, "Sure." They kicked me out of the gym because they told me no other trainers were going to be there. I didn't get pissed. Those are your rules. All right, man, I'm out of here. This is not my place where I decide, right? So the decision that you make as a student or as a consumer is that something that's going to limit you from getting better? Is that something that's going to limit you from learning, right? I guess the only other concern would be, is financially, could you afford to buy the gi, right? Like what happens to all your other gis? It kind of sucks for dudes that have a bunch of gis and now they can't wear
a lot
them.
of them they'll rent you a gi.
But I'm just saying, like, say if you're at your school and you tell everybody you have to wear my Hellfish gi, you know, like, well, what happens to all their other gis?
Yeah, right.
Right, that's the thing. Like, you know, so maybe you do a patch program where they have to wear a patch.
I know, like in Atos, so they all have to wear the Atos gi or the Atos rash guard.
Right.
And then when they compete, I think they're allowed to wear, like, if they're sponsored by a company,
Right.
they can wear
Yeah,
that.
so I look, and I don't. It is some of the top schools, but you look at how those guys came up. They weren't subjected to the same thing. Like Salo didn't have to wear a specific gi.
I bet he wore a Gracie Humaita gi.
He didn't. He wore.
I mean,
kimono.
I wasn't there. I don't think you were either.
I was.
I mean, when he competed, maybe.
Yeah, no, I was at his school and I was at Gracie Humaita.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't. They weren't forced to wear a certain gi. Maybe they had to put a patch on. And that's another thing. There's a downstream there. If it's not a gi, then you make a guy wear a patch. I've seen that as well. It's a lot less of an expensive thing. But yeah, I mean, it's just odd to me that a lot of these, as successful as you say these schools are, and they are the best schools, that's not necessarily what makes them successful.
Part of it, I think, it's professionalism. They treat it more serious than a school where guys are, like you said, just wearing mismatched gis, tank tops, shirtless. These guys take it a little bit more serious. Like when you watch the Eagles play, you're not going to see an Eagles player wearing a Raiders jersey during a game. They're on the same team. They're working together. They're wearing the same thing.
Right, I got you. Yeah, like if that's again, like I said, in prison.
But if you don't like it, then don't go.
Right. And if you want to be prisoned, like have that prison mentality and look like the guy next to you, go for it. All right, moving on. So, like, if you don't like it, don't do it. Right.
Yep.
Is it a bad idea? So this is from Morpheus, who's a friend of ours. Dog has asked a question. I'm not going to read the first part because it's kind of foul. Is it a bad idea to blow your nose during a fight? Cowboy did it, and his eye swelled shut. I'm sure the broken orbital didn't help. I heard the same thing happen to Alvarez. What gives? And then there's another thing. I'm not going to read that. But clearly it is a bad idea if your nose is broken in a certain way to blow your nose because of the exact thing that happened to Donald Cerrone.
Depends on if you want to keep fighting or not.
Right, if you want out, you'll blow your nose?
Like if you don't want to fight, then go ahead and blow your nose. And if you don't feel like seeing for a couple days, then blow your nose. But if you would like to keep your eye open and be able to fight and see for a couple days, don't blow your nose.
It was amazing.
Whenever you get your nose broken, or even if you don't know, if you're not sure it's broken, you shouldn't blow it. That's why when you see in boxing, they just start jamming things up there and like pulling things out. They don't have the guy blow it.
Yeah, the boxing guys have a lot more experience with that idea, and you'll hear don't make sure you don't blow your nose.
But even Cowboy even said, he's like, I know that I should have.
Right, but it just the physical feeling. He probably was looking for the relief of whatever was clogged up there.
It's probably his corner's fault for not addressing the nose,
or Cowboy's fault for blowing it. So yeah, do not blow your nose if you think it's broken. If you, like Tim said, if you want your eye to continue to function like an eye. You're up, Tim.
All right. This is from Art McKee, Bounce Studios 2-stripe brown belt. I would love to hear your opinions on warm-ups before class. I hear arguments such as, I'm paying to learn BJJ, not exercise. I'd own a CrossFit gym if I wanted to exercise. That makes more sense. I'd join a CrossFit gym if I wanted to exercise. I warm up before class on my own, etc. Thoughts?
So yeah, I get the.
Can I go?
Sure.
Like, nobody good says any of that shit. Nobody,
Okay.
No, like serious, like people will say that.
I've never seen anything athletic where they would tell you, yeah, just come in cold and just let's fire it right up.
Exactly. And maybe you warm up before class on your own. I don't know where you would do that. Like,
If you have access,
you're probably
to the
coming
mats.
in late to class. You're not participating in the class if you're warming up before class. Like, I don't really understand it, but I think warm ups shouldn't. I'm not big on doing like 20-minute warm ups. I do like a 5-10 minute warm up, and then I think the drilling is more of a warm up, and then leads into like live rounds and rolling.
Right.
But yeah, like these people are lazy, or they're just young and sort of like they might not see the value in it.
Or old.
Yeah, they just don't. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I also changed up a couple things based on a conversation that you and I had one time about warm ups and actual live training. Because sometimes we do the reverse, right? We do the warm up, we do technique, then we do live training.
Yeah.
Or we've almost wasted a warm up.
Yeah.
Right. Because the warm up should be to prepare us for the hard training, right? Not for the easier stuff, which is the technique. So in some classes, what I'll do now is I do a general warm up and I do a little bit, so like laps and all that other stuff. Then I do more of a jiu-jitsu specific movements, break fall, standing up at base, elbow escapes, that kind of stuff. And then get into training if it's right for that class, or get into the technique. But I also want to make sure that the people, when they're doing the technique, are getting their reps in, not wasting their time, so that they're also not losing the benefits of the warm up. To like the technical, the learning part isn't a cool down.
Right.
It's a continuation of the warm up. Then when we get into training, they're ready to go. So I agree with you. You should warm up before class. If it's run by the instructor, that's great. If an instructor doesn't want you to warm up and he goes right into technique, I think Danaher doesn't do any warm ups. He goes right into technique. Clearly, that's done well for a lot of guys that compete out of there. But I think that you're probably not walking in cold from 30 to like a 30-degree winter Manhattan day and jumping right into live training. You shouldn't do that. Because like we talked about last week, the less you warm up now, the more you're going to need to warm up later.
Yeah, and I can speak from experience because I didn't warm up for a long time, but eventually I had to start doing it. Now I can't. I take like probably the first 20 minutes of my live training is warming up. You know what I mean? It's just if you're in class,
you do what the instructor says.
Yeah. So, but if the instructor doesn't have you warm up, then don't warm up. But if the instructor does have you warm up, shut the fuck up and do the warm up.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think and a lot of people don't go to the gym. They don't go to CrossFit. They come to jiu-jitsu. They come to Muay Thai because they want the workout. Now, sometimes learning a new technique isn't that rigorous of a workout. And if you're not staying for live training, then when did you really raise your heart rate to a level where it would be beneficial for you? So I think that any good class should have some sort of warm up. If it doesn't, then you're warming up on your own beforehand and moving it forward. So, and if you don't like warm ups, then find a different school.
And also a lot of the top schools have very long warm ups.
Yes.
And their guys are in really good shape
and do really well.
So they do warm ups, they do drilling, live training, and then they'll do conditioning afterwards. So it's like, if you're serious about getting good at jiu-jitsu and being tough, you should do everything you can.
Right. Technique alone is not.
A warm up is never going to hurt you.
No.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, I don't.
Yeah, we do a warm up just about in every class.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the beginners, the kids class. Good question, Art McKee. Hopefully you're not like Pat Geegan, who avoids the warm up at my school. He, strategically comes to class late and gets right into technique. All right, I'll read this next one. This is from Rob McNamara. He's a black belt at Elevated Studios. So he's a student of our buddy Stephen Plyler. We referred to him last week. How do you guys feel about people complaining about going too rough during training, assuming it's not finger pulling or eye gouging, things of that nature, and that both students are similar size and skill level? How do you decipher if a student is being too soft or if someone is being out of control and spazzing?
I forget who said it, but I think it was like some politician or something. He said he was talking about pornography. He's like, I don't know how to define it, but I know it when I see it.
Okay.
And I think it's the same thing with spazzing and being out of control. Like the finger pulling and eye gouging
Clearly,
definitely
clearly
a
an
clear
indicator.
sign
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you're going too rough. But I don't know.
If you're a guy or a gal that's injured multiple people, you might want to step back and think,
And
what have I done?
A simple way to, like, I think we talked about it before. Simple way to tell is if people don't want to roll with you, there's something wrong with you.
There's right. Either you're not good enough,
Right.
or you go way too hard.
Right.
Now, there are definitely people that I know that if I'm going to train with them, they're going to go hard. They're not trying to hurt me, but this is, maybe I don't want to train with them every time I see them.
They only have one speed.
One of my black belts, Carlos, right? Rodriguez, he's living in the Caribbean now, but I had to mentally prepare myself to train with him because I knew he was never trying to injure me, but he was trying to fuck me up.
Yeah.
And he came at me like he was trying to fuck me. There's pictures of me on Instagram with, gi burns on my face, going with him and all that other stuff. But I never felt like he was a spaz. I never felt like he was somebody that I was in danger of getting hurt with. But he was somebody that I knew was going to be a hard roll every time I went with him.
Yeah. That's there's some guys you just have to be in the right mood to roll with. Like you're like, all right, I'm ready for a street fight, so I'm gonna go with them.
Meathead Matt Richmond's another guy like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So wait, what's the real question here? How do you decipher if a student is being too soft?
So who is grappler A just soft, or is grappler B going too hard?
So if grappler B, if everyone says that he goes too rough, then he's probably going too rough.
Okay.
If it's just the one soft guy in class that's saying that he goes too rough, then it's the guy.
And there's plenty of soft students.
Yeah.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with being soft. Not everybody's rock hard like we are.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Not everybody should do like super intense, rough training.
Or all the time they shouldn't be doing it, right?
Yeah, I don't think anybody should do it all the time.
Right.
It's terrible for you. But I think and he also says if it's similar size and skill level, you should be able to like communicate and be like, hey man, I'm kind of injured today. Like I just want to go light. Or just say that if the guy asks you up, like, nah, I just want to go light today.
But you have those dudes, the guy's like, hey man, let's go light. And the next thing you know, he shoots himself out of a cannon at you. Right? Yeah. So like he's setting you up to get fucked up,
Yeah.
But there are definitely dudes that, I had the one a couple months ago. He hasn't been back after I screamed at him. But I'm like, bro, I have to beat you. Like I train with you. Like I have to beat you up. I'm defending myself the whole time. You explode into everything when it's not even necessary. Relax. Like I get that you want to get good at this, and like you think that exploding and being a spaz and like all this other stuff is going to make you better, and it's not. I'm not saying don't explode when there's an opportunity to explode, that it's going to maximize the potential for this move, but every single movement doesn't have to be a keg of dynamite going off.
Yeah, it kind of goes into a question later, but there's a time and place for everything. Like there's a time to be gentle and roll and flow, and there's a time to be nuts and spazzy and rough.
Right, and they're usually not the same time.
Right. Yeah. And if you're, I don't know. I guess probably people might complain that Rob goes too hard, but I don't think he does because I roll with Rob a lot.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever rolled with him, but
yeah,
I've heard good things.
He's good and he's tough. But I wouldn't. If anybody's telling Rob that he's too rough, then they're soft.
They're soft. Okay.
Because Rob's not too rough. He'll go hard, but it's not. There's no threat of injury or anything.
Right. But is he the type of guy where you're like, all right, man, all right, I'm ready to go with him today? Or
yeah. I mean, it's not like, you got to be. You're in for a tough match if you go with him.
All right. So maybe some of your training partners are soft, is what we're saying. If not, then you're not. That sounds like Tim knows you well, and you are not a spaz or going too hard.
Should I do this one?
Yeah, go for it.
I like this one because I've always wondered about this.
They're looking for answers, not questions.
I know, but I mean, like this Wim Hof guy is I find hilarious. Do you think it's important to learn proper technique to control your breathing? Do you have any thoughts on the Wim Hof method?
So one of my old students, and I love this guy. He's like I think you might have met him a few times. Jared Tavasolian. He was like a Wim Hof, a certified Wim Hof,
certified breather.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah. No, but he also was exactly the kind of guy that you would think, the way he acted, like, I understand why his personality took him to Wim Hof. It's like a California dude, super crunchy, just like super chill, but got good at jiu-jitsu really fast, like in really good shape. And had he moved back to California, I'm hoping he's still training. But had he kept training, like the dude would have been a beast.
Yeah.
And just like never, you'd look at his face and his face was the same. Like in a bad spot, good spot, like super heavy, didn't even know what being heavy was, just naturally was heavy.
Yeah.
And I think part of being able to control your breathing, and more specifically this Wim Hof stuff, is that's more of, I think, the idea of, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm trying to, man, I didn't lose my train of thought, but.
Snake oil?
No, not snake oil at all, but just kind of like one of those things that you're doing because you want to be able to do it. You want to be able to get into super cold water and not have it bother you, because you want to be able to have that level of control over yourself. That self-mastery was the word I'm looking for.
So that's what I wonder about the Wim Hof method is, what does it do other than allow you to sit in cold water? Because I've talked to several people that have been to, one guy, he's like gone to Wim Hof and like trained with
Evan?
him. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And but I still don't understand like what it does for you other than being able to sit in a bucket of cold water, like hang out with a shirt without a shirt in the snow. Like it I don't want to do that even if I could do it.
Right. But I mean, I think it's super interesting to me that you could put yourself in that self-mastered headspace, that you can do it, something that other people couldn't even, muster up the will and the capacity to do it. So I think it speaks to the type of people that are trying to master that skill. I don't know what it does from an athletic standpoint.
I do think controlling your breathing is important, because something I do, competing, fighting, anything, and I tell people if they're competing or fighting, when you get nervous, like your body kind of follows your mind, and your mind will follow your body. You can like use it back and forth. So when you get nervous, your heart rate starts going up and going crazy. Right. And your breath will start going crazy. You'll be taking shallow breaths. And if you just consciously take slower, deep breaths, you can sort of bring your heart rate down, which will bring your mind down, and you can kind of get back to like a much more calm position. And if you relax on that, it might start coming back up anytime the nervousness comes back. But it's impressive how much control you can have over your mind and body by doing that.
Right, because just imagine.
But without doing any.
So you don't necessarily need to do Wim Hof.
You don't need to get certified. You don't need to get certified to take deep breaths.
Right.
You could just
or to calm yourself.
Yeah, you read almost any sports psychology book, they'll tell you about doing centering breaths when you get nervous, and to sort of
these guys if you go to Wim Hof, maybe it just gives you a method of how you can embody that better, quicker, faster, and in a way that just allows you to be more successful at it than figuring it out on your own.
Like I said, there's not much to figure out. You take slow, deep breaths, and you'll calm down.
Again, I don't trust your science, but go ahead.
It's not science, and Wim Hof has no science to back it up.
Right, but so neither do you.
Moving on.
All right, man. This is Anton's got. Hopefully, this is written in a way that you're not going to.
Am I reading this?
Editorialize it. No, I'm going to read it because you read the last one. Is there a time and a place for the meat grabs and the butt smothers, as Meathead Matt asked? I run a Tuesday class where I encourage all smothers and meathead moves. I set the class up for the students to grapple as if they are in a competition. Start on the feet, count your points. I say try shit in other classes, but my class, you should try to win. Whether it's psychological games like shit talking or shoulder pressure to make a guy uncomfortable. Your thoughts, Tim? Parenthetically, I already know Marco is a dirty fighter. Anton Burzin, Balance Studios black belt. Second question he sent in.
Yes, I 100%. There's a time. So he's running a competition class.
Yes.
Which is great. So if you want to compete, you need to train like that sometimes. I think most of your training should be based around getting better at skills. So it shouldn't be this most of the time. And then some of your training should be training the skill of winning and competing, which includes the psychological stuff.
The only thing I don't agree with what he's saying is
grabbing meat.
Well, no, you can grab meat if you like. That's fine. Is the shit talking? I'm just not. I'm not a fan of that.
Right. But I mean, I don't have.
I will shit coach though.
I know. Yeah, that's great to do that, especially for guys that want to compete. You should always be like trying too hard to win when you're trying to learn something or get better will hold you back sometimes.
Right. You spoke about it last week. You know, you're in most of your training, you're trying to execute as opposed to trying to win.
Right.
But then there's time where you're saying that now is time to win.
Right.
And execute.
Yeah. So like, there's things you like when you're doing these kind of trying to win things. Again, grabbing meat, butt smothers, mufflers, that stuff's not going to really get you closer to winning. It can, frustrate somebody, but.
Right. But the idea of going as hard as you could go.
And like, I like what he says about paying attention to points, advantages. Like I learned this when I was training down at Lloyd Irvin's a lot. There was no out of bounds there. So like you could start a match on the mat, you could end up in the lobby
and keep going.
And they would just say, no out of bounds, don't stop. Like we would end up off the mat they had like bleachers next to the mat. You'd be like on top of the bleachers trying to pass the guy's guard.
Right.
So I've kind of always taken that, and I don't train like that if I'm training my skill, but if I'm going at sort of competition speed,
right.
I don't stop if I hit the wall. I don't stop if I bump into or off the mat or into other people.
Right.
I just don't stop, because one of the things I see a lot of people fuck up on in competition is they'll get close to the edge of the mat and they stop.
They expect something to happen.
And the competitor that wins doesn't stop and will score a takedown.
Runs them into the advertisement next to the mat.
Yeah. So there is definitely a time and place. I think that should be, if you had to do like a percentages, that should be like 20% of your training should be that kind of training.
Okay.
80% should be based on getting better at jiu-jitsu.
So funny you should talk about kind of, like what's your school's focus on, because Carl just moved to Philly. He's one of my brown belts, and he started training at Roots, which has now become Logic. And it seems like they're very competition oriented there, in the sense that like they even, like I went to a class there yesterday to talk to Christian and to thank him for taking Carl in and all that other stuff. Because Carl approached him and said, hey, I want to train here, but I still want Marco to promote me, and I just want to make sure that's okay. Mm-hmm. And Christian took him in under those circumstances, and I wanted to thank Christian for that. He wasn't there, but I went anyway and took class and had an interesting time. And you could see when a school is a little bit more focused on competition, and I'm not very focused on competition. I'm just focused on skill set, submission. I'm not saying one's better than the other, just saying like my mindset is of a certain way. And I think a lot of that has to do is because I don't compete. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, Christian's an active competitor. The other instructor there is an active competitor. So that informs a lot of how classes can and will be structured. Warm up, drilling, new technique, live training, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that thing right there. But just talking to Carl and seeing some of the stuff that, the live training, where you see that when you're points oriented, you're also position oriented, right? Like you get a spot, you keep it, you can't lose it. But the flip side of that is when you're less points oriented, right, and you're kind of more like say a generalist in jiu-jitsu, not a specific, competitive guy, is that sometimes that opens you. And this is what Carl and I's conversation was, and I think he said even Christian commented on it, is that it opens you up to some more submissions that may not be there because they're fighting the position, but it opens up. They're fighting a guard pass. Now it's opening up an arm lock. Yeah. Right. That they're more worried. They think the guy's more worried about passing, and you see the arm. Now you're kind of jumping on it. So it's just interesting to see that what mindsets breed what styles, but also what kind of abilities in jiu-jitsu. But going back to this, I think if you're going to compete, you need to have that hard nose. You have to train to win. You have to compete to win. And it's all that's how you're going to get better at it, right? Mm-hmm. Competition is not something where just because you're good at jiu-jitsu, you're going to show up and be a success.
Right. That's why I said, like, this is the class like that is not training your jiu-jitsu skill. It's training the skill of winning and competing. Like, so there's way more to winning than just being good at jiu-jitsu. Like when you compete, if you compete at a higher level, you're going to go up against people that are just better than you at jiu-jitsu or wrestling or anything, but you still have to beat them.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you have to figure out a way to use other things. It could be shit talking. It could be talking shit to a guy that's not used to it, and he gets frustrated and headbutts you and gets disqualified.
That's
still
happened.
won.
Yeah.
So I think
because the point is getting to the top of the podium.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By advantage, by submission, by whatever.
Yep.
All right. Next question, Tim. You're up.
There's been a movement recently regarding making BJJ mandatory training for law enforcement. Gracie breakdown videos, something else, for instance. Was curious to hear both of your thoughts on this subject and your opinions on how departments could successfully implement such programs. They could contact...
Wait, can you give the guy credit?
Me. This is from Dominic at Martial Arts Fitness Center White Belt. You guys can contact me at hellfishmma.com. I can come teach you guys how to fight and take care of yourselves. Cops should all know jiu-jitsu, and they shouldn't know necessarily sport jiu-jitsu.
Worm guard.
They don't need to know that, but cops need to engage in grappling so that when they have to actually grapple with a suspect.
Because anytime you're cuffing somebody, you're grappling with them.
Right. And, most cops, one of the biggest benefits you'll get from just training sport jiu-jitsu is you get comfortable with violent grappling interactions with people. So when it happens for real, you're not going to freeze up. You know exactly what to do if somebody grabs you in a headlock or... I've
gotten the feeling, taking it even a step further, that the police officers that train are less prone to violence than police officers that don't.
For sure.
Because of the mental benefits that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or any kind of real life training can have for them.
And this isn't like, I'm not trying to say like Jiu-Jitsu is like all a cop needs.
Right.
But I think
it's a lot that a cop needs.
Man, even if just having a cop do like 6 weeks of a little bit of grappling would benefit him a lot.
Yeah,
to understand.
The issue is how they're structured for training police officers, right? So most of your time as a police officer, most of your training was done 20 years ago when you were in the academy, right? So the last time you learned something was 20 years ago, or you do some continuing education where it's 2 days. Right, and all of it is, sometimes they'll train the trainer, right? So they'll pick an officer who's interested at the local police force. They'll send him to a training. He comes back and then he trains his people. There either needs to be an institutionalized idea of it that each department or each county has a training, mandatory training, but I'm talking about on a much more regular basis, where it's like you have to take at least one class a week, right? And you get paid for it, and it's not it's not the kind of thing where they're paying for it out of pocket, because like a lot of police officers that we know, they have to pay out of pocket, on their own to cover their training expenses, because their departments aren't set up to do that. So if you were to change the way a department is set up, and each individual department or the county that department resides in says, okay, we have these classes, the officers, we rotate the schedule. They come in for 2 hours each week to do this, would be way better than them doing 2 days once a year or having done 6 months 10 years ago.
Yeah,
right?
I think cops should have, I think being a cop should be a very hard job to get, and it should be an easy job to lose. And I think they should be like highly skilled physically and mentally. I think there's a real problem with, I walk around, I see cops, they're like
completely out of shape.
They're angry. Like they're just, when I used to work in the city, and I would talk to cops and like deal with cops in like in a friendly way, but I could tell that they just wanted to fuck people up. And like you said, the cops that I know that train in general aren't like that.
Yeah, they're more apt to cut you a break or
not just cut you a break, but
treat you more like a human being.
They're more mentally sound. They're more physically, I think in general, anybody that's physically capable and confident is able to handle almost any situation better.
Also, this boils back to the mental benefits of training that would more than likely make you a better police officer and less engaged in some of those violent, activities.
I think it should be mandatory, and I don't even think it should be done off-site. Every department should have a jiu-jitsu instructor like on site, and cops
on payroll,
and cops have to go in once a week. I remember, I forget what the guy's name was, but he was friends with Brad Court, and he worked for, I think it was either the FBI or like the Army or something, but his job was basically he lived on the base and he taught jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
And he had to be at the jiu-jitsu place from for like 6 hours a day.
Okay.
And if somebody came in, he had to like
teach them
or roll with them or whatever. And I think he had like one class a day. But other than that, if like somebody wanted to learn, that he had to, while he was there, I don't know if he's there full time, but it was like a couple days a week he was there and doing it. I thought that was a great idea. But I think it should be like a mandatory they have a couple guys in there. You could easily get them from local gyms.
Yeah, as long as they have like the appropriate certifications and are good. But yeah, so I think that so what we're saying is that the policing needs to address this administratively, not just throwing it on the police officers to continue their education to be better police officers. The other issues that police officers have is that the Attorney General's office kind of dictates sometimes some of the techniques they can use to defend themselves. Mm-hmm. Like you can't use a choke, right? Because it's mandated by like in the state of New Jersey, the Attorney General says you can't use like a choke that passes you out.
A rear strangle.
Rear strangle, right? Yeah, you can't use that. So then a lot of times, what are you going to teach? Like there's a set of moves that you don't learn.
Teaching positions. Right. I think that's almost more important than learning. Like cops don't need to know many submission holds.
Right.
Like they just really need to learn how to control people and get
hit
and get handcuffs on them.
Right.
No,
I agree with you. So yeah, we need we need law enforcement to be more proactive in their training, but we mean this at the high levels of administration, not even as much at the low levels of street policing. But I appreciate the police officers that come in that want to be better prepared and better educated, and I think they do a better job of policing when they're training actively.
Yeah, I think we need more of them.
Yeah. Next question is from Steve Wilson, a Hellfish Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. His wife and 2 kids train with me. He trains with you, so it must be the rest of the family is a little bit smarter. With all the BJJ Instagram techniques and instructional DVD/VHS available, which ones are your go-to that are realistic and practical, excluding the obvious John Danaher? I really like ATT Low Country on Instagram and Hodger Gracie TV personally. Side note, is Aaron Pico done? I think we referred to that earlier. Again, Steve Wilson, Hellfish BJJ black belt.
He's not done, but he's on his way.
Yeah, he's on his way to being done. Yeah. He's like at medium rare now. So how about you? Do you have any Instagram accounts or YouTube channels that you go to just to check stuff out?
I like the Hellfish Mixed Martial Arts YouTube channel. That's a really good one.
I'm going to ask Devin to edit in an exasperated breath.
There's a lot of effective techniques that are realistic and practical.
If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm shaking my head right now.
But as far as Instagram, I think you should stay away from techniques on Instagram because people aren't posting techniques that are effective. They're posting techniques that look cool. And it's becoming like karate demonstrations where you have a guy sitting there and like offering absolutely no movement, resistance, or anything. And the dude's just spinning around doing a bunch of crazy shit.
Isn't that what happens when you teach a move to a class?
No.
So the guy's the guy's giving you a ton of resistance when you're teaching a technique?
The technique that when I teach techniques sort of like in a sequence where you're going to move here, he'll probably move here, and then you go through that. But what I'm saying is like these elaborate techniques that you put on Instagram aren't in general realistic or practical. They're there to get views and likes. They're not there to be practical and realistic. I think
there's some that are pretty good. Like the guy that I think is the worst at this is Mike Bidwell. BJJ after 40.
That's what I'm talking about. That kind of stuff is terrible.
Yeah, I would never like his. I mean, he's a nice enough dude, but his stuff is trash.
And I've seen this guy ATT Low Country has some cool stuff,
right?
And Hodger Gracie, of course,
right?
I haven't
seen his Instagram. But I think he's referring to the.
I've been on his website, and all his stuff is super simple and effective. But if you want to learn what's realistic and effective and practical, avoid instructionals and watch competitions, and learn how to break down what's happening in the competition, and also learn to find.
Okay, so let me ask you this: so if you're a white belt,
I wasn't finished.
But yes, you are. How would you?
No. So I'm not gonna. No. I'm not.
You got to entertain. So
I will entertain it when I'm done talking.
So hold on. You're saying you said learn.
No. When I'm done talking, then you can talk. Stop. I'm trying to finish my sentence. All right. So learn to find the things that make the techniques work, not just the techniques. Like what allows Hodger Gracie to just pull people in his guard and take their back and choke them. Not just the technique, but what else does he do that allows that to happen? Now, what were you going to say?
Can I talk?
Please.
Okay. So how the fuck are they going to do that?
What do you mean?
How's a white belt going to let me figure out what the best guy in the world is doing and how does he do it? So
I
'cause you're not-
was addressing a BJJ black belt.
No, I got you, but we have.
So now
we have way
you
more.
want to change it to white belts?
No.
You want me to talk? You want me to address white belts now?
Because you're saying learn how to do it, but you're not giving any context of what that means.
I said watch competitions.
So, but
Study tape.
by studying tape,
Yeah.
how would you specifically tell them to study tape?
Watch it.
Watch it.
Find. So you watch. This is how I do it.
Okay.
Right.
So this is going to be helpful. Go ahead.
Okay. So I watch a match.
Because telling them to learn it's not helpful. Telling them how you do it is way better.
Well, I was just giving a general idea.
I'm trying to help.
Basically,
the people.
what I was saying is
trying to
study
help
tape.
the people, man.
All right. So this is how it goes. Find a video of a match that you watch. Okay. Find the technique that changed the match. Like what's the technique? So like let's say Craig Jones and Kenan Duarte when they had their match.
Right.
The thing that changed that match was not the rear naked choke. It was the back take that he hit.
From that
Craig,
half guard type position.
Well, Craig
right?
Jones attacked the leg lock.
And he forced
and
it into half guard.
No, he dropped into what they call pretzel bolo and took his back and choked him. So,
which is what position? Pretzel bolo is considered what?
It's a back take position.
But it's not. There was no guard involved.
No.
Okay.
I don't believe so.
There was no legs wrapped around his leg.
So Craig Jones was going for ankle lock.
Yes.
As he was trying to pass the leg across, Kenan Duarte dove under.
But he had two legs around one leg, right? Just want to be clear.
That was a back take position. It wasn't. There was no guard position.
Oh,
it was
sure.
a back
There
take.
wasn't. Okay, there wasn't. You're right.
It was a back take.
Sure.
I lost my train of thought.
That must not have been a good thought then.
Um,
But so how would they break down? Like, so step them through your breakdown of that match.
So you find that position, and then you watch. What did he do as Craig Jones went for the leg lock? How did he defend the leg lock first?
So what was the important transition?
What did he position? How did he position himself in order to do that move? And then what I'll do is I'll click back and rewatch it 1,000 times.
Rewind it?
Rewatch it.
Click back or rewind it?
Click back and rewatch it.
Okay. We just want to make sure what we're doing here.
Let's try to continue the conversation without these idiotic interruptions.
No,
Come on.
they're not.
Come on. Let's stop. Come on, bro. Let's stop.
I had an easy question earlier. I just wanted to help people learn how to break video down.
Let's stop. All right. So you click back or rewind, whatever you want to say, and then you rewatch the sequence.
Go ahead.
Okay. And then you study that sequence and figure out if I want to practice that move live, I have to have somebody go for a leg lock on me. Or you can say, here, go for a leg lock on me, and I'm going to try. You're confusing the techniques now. If I want to work the pretzel bolo, why would I tell you to pretzel bolo me?
But we have to be in the pretzel bolo position, right?
No.
Okay. I thought you were confusing
The pretzel
me.
bolo is done from a leg lock position.
Okay.
Not a pretzel bolo position.
Not familiar with the
I
pretzel
know you're
bolo.
not. That's why you should keep your mouth shut and let me explain it.
Man, are you?
But I think I'm done now. So
You're.
basically watch tape, find the sequence that you want to learn, and keep rewatching it until you understand it.
So how
I can't teach you how to understand moves.
Okay.
Unless you're in class. But through the microphone, I can't teach you how to learn something.
But when they're watching videos, because I break film down as well. So would you recommend if they could slow it down as opposed to just like watching it?
If you can slow it down, I never slow it down. I just watch it. I just click back and watch it in full speed.
The guy that did a great job of that back in the day was Mark Lehman with those remix videos, right?
You know who does a good job is
with
BJJ Scout.
What Mark Lehman would do was he would set up video cameras at the Worlds before pre-flow grappling, and then he put out a set of VHSs where he'd do very similarly to what you were talking about, right? Because I think he was a lot of his stuff was self-taught or video taught, where he'd pick up the technique, he would show it at full speed, and then he would show it to you 4 or 5 times slowed down so that you could pick up the nuances of it, right? And then move on from there. So I think that might be another thing if you have the ability to slow the video down, if it's a live action match, to be able to see it a little bit, less at live speed, a little bit more broken, slowed down so that you can understand it a bit better.
Yeah, and a lot of times the thing that makes a technique work. So when you watch something on Instagram, you're not going to see. Years ago when I first saw like the Berimbolo and I wanted to learn, I watched like a Mendez Brothers video on how to do it. And
Like an instructional video?
Yeah,
or?
it was like an
Okay.
instructional
All right.
video. And his whole thing was like, for this to work, you have to get the guy's hips to hit the mat.
Okay.
So, but on Instagram, you're just going to see a crazy sequence of moves.
Right.
You're not going to have a guy.
Most videos are like 60 seconds on Instagram, right?
Yeah. And it's usually there's usually several moves, or there's not enough time to really break it
Or
down.
it's a single angle.
And it's also not interesting to say like the secret to doing the berimbolo is just getting the guy's hips to hit the mat.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's not going to get a lot of views and likes, but it's the most crucial part of that technique, really, almost more than the grips or the
Right.
inversion, is just figuring out the way to tip the guy over, and then you can hit almost anything you want from there.
Right.
So, and there's most techniques are like that. It's not, the technique is fairly easy if you can get the guy's hips on the mat, or if you can get the guy to put his hands on the mat.
Right.
It's another like,
And that's where maybe slowing it down can have you. So you need a better jiu-jitsu mind to do some of this stuff. I
but
think.
that develops over time. You don't have a good jiu-jitsu mind when you're a white belt.
Right.
So, but you develop it by watching tape.
You can. Part of it.
You
yeah.
should.
Yeah.
If you want to get good at jiu-jitsu, you should be
Well,
studying.
if you want to get
tape.
good at a certain style of jiu-jitsu, yeah. I
And-
agree. Because not everybody wants the techniques of what high-level competitors use.
What techniques do they want? Low-level competitor. what
but-
techniques do they want?
What I'm saying is a lot, like, all right, I don't want to do berimbolos.
You don't have to. I didn't say study berimbolos. I said study tape.
Right. What I'm
Of
saying,
whatever you want to learn.
right,
Study it.
exactly. Yeah.
No,
I
that's
agree
not
with you.
exactly. You're saying.
No, what am I saying? Go ahead, tell me what I'm saying.
I don't know. I'm moving on. This is ridiculous. Again, let's go on to Bill Bell's question.
What about Aaron Pico? Oh, we already talked about Aaron
He's
Pico.
almost done.
Medium rare.
Medium rare.
All right. Medium well. Who's reading this one? Me?
You.
All right. Gordeau wins UFC #1. How is jiu-jitsu in the U.S. impacted? Bill Bell, NJMA Blue Belt. It's the second question he sent in. This is, I think, a really interesting one.
Yeah, it's a great question.
I think we're all wearing white gi pants, fighting each other bare-chested, kicking somebody's teeth out of their face.
Yeah, we're just running around kicking fat dudes in the face.
Taya Tui
And Gordeau is a very dirty fighter.
was biting Horace Gracie, right?
Bit Hoist Gracie, gouged out.
Blinded.
What's his name? Little Japanese guy.
Yeah. What the hell was his name? The Japanese dude got his black belt from the IBJJF. I can't think of his name right now. But
Yuki Nakai.
Yuki Nakai.
Yeah.
Very good grappler.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't think any of us would be doing. A lot of us probably wouldn't be doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
Like
I
we
just
never
thought-
would have heard of Hoist Gracie.
you'd probably be 400 pounds. I'd be 300. But yeah, it would have. Could you imagine? So the Brazilians come, the Gracies come. They're going to turn the world on its head. And then where was he from? Was he from Holland or?
I believe he's from Holland.
He's
yeah.
from Holland. This basically would look like a karate guy comes in, look like he just walked out of prison, right? He's part of the Aryan Nation. Kicks some Hawaiian dude's face in. Who else did he beat in that UFC?
Oh, Kevin Rozier.
Kevin Rozier. Oh, the big white kickboxing guy,
Yeah.
right? He beat the snot out of him too, didn't he?
He dropped him, and
Wasn't
I
he
think
like heel stomping
he
him
was
in
heel
the rib
stomping
cage?
his ribs. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
wait. That was what Kevin Rozier did to Zane Frazier. Kevin Rozier was heel stomping on Zane Frazier's
Dude,
head.
I watched those first UFCs. I love watching those things,
Yeah,
man.
they're still
it's
good.
It's crazy.
Because they're not. It's complete. It's not MMA. It's
And it's a bunch of dudes that you pulled off of the couch
Yeah.
or out of the bar.
or out of the dojo, like
Just like a regular dude.
like halftime dojo guys. Like
yeah, like Ken
train-
Shamrock. Obviously, Ken Shamrock wasn't a halftime.
Pat Smith was a legit kickboxer
Well, he just recently passed away, by the way. Died of cancer.
and sex offending.
He didn't die from sex offending, but he was a convicted sex offender, which was highly disappointing just because he was a
He was a real.
Shitakan guy, right?
I don't know, but I know he was a real bitch in fighting. Like he
Tapped out from being mounted against Hoist.
well, he took two very soft punches to the cheek, and then when he fought Fabio Gurgel, is it Gurgel or Gurgel?
I'm not going to entertain that.
Fabio,
I'm just glad that we're back, man.
Fabio
I was so
Gurgel.
worried about that.
No,
we were
man.
going to be mad at each
Come
other.
on, man. Are we ever mad at each other?
For bits and pieces, like as it's happening.
Yeah, but then it's
over.
yeah.
It's all right. We're back.
and even if we're not mad at each, we're just disgusted with each other. I wouldn't say it's mad.
I think that's an undercurrent with each other that we're discussing with each other.
But he tapped out from Gurgel, had him in a clinch, like got a body lock, and he was holding the ropes.
And he tapped out from that.
He refused to let go of the ropes, and the referee was like, "If you don't let go of ropes, I'm going to disqualify you."
Didn't like a riot happen? Or
I don't know if it was just like a very anticlimactic fight.
Right.
And then I know he had a couple great like beatdowns in the UFC though, like when he beat up the Ninja.
Scott Morris.
And then when he
was not allowed to return to Robert Bussey's Warrior International after that.
I actually had a guy come in and train with me for a while who
I made that up, but I think Robert Bussey took him back.
Well, he used to train with Bussey and Scott Morris back in the day. He was a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, one of my buddies who I do some other podcasting with every once in a while knows those guys, and he's like, he'd also heard the rumor that Scott Morris may have had permanent nerve damage in his face from that fight.
I believe it.
that was pretty brutal. But yeah, we would definitely be in a different fighting space right now if grappling hadn't shown what it could do.
But you know what? I'll bet Rorion Gracie would have found a way to make it work. He might not have.
He would have brought Hickson in?
No, I think he just would have found another way to get it out there. I think that dude, he's a very sharp businessman.
I think the UFC would have continued, and at some point, wrestlers would have got involved because they're like, oh, I took people down in college and they couldn't, like hit me and all this other stuff. But the popularization and the effectiveness and, like just kind of the growth of jiu-jitsu may not have happened.
But also, like, if they had just thrown, like they could have thrown Hickson in at number 2.
Right.
Or Hoist back in at number 2. Because that was the thing about Hoist was just like a
regular dude.
Skinny guy in pajamas beating people up. So that's what I think made it so cool. So I think, even if Hoist had lost in the first one, if they had brought him back for the second one and he did what he did in the second one.
I mean, but it would have just been like, the story tracks out differently, right?
Yeah, because Hoist was like undefeated.
Right. And he just beat up all these dudes and it was pretty crazy. And like you were saying that Gordeau was such a dirty fighter, Ken Shamrock, Pat Smith, all these dudes that just looked
more
like
impressive
tougher fighters.
Yeah, his win over Ken Shamrock was the most impressive.
Ken
Shamrock knew how to grapple.
Yes.
A little bit.
Well, now let's get into that because Ken Shamrock almost alludes to after that fight interview, he's like, well, I've never been choked before. That sounds like BS that, like he's doing grappling in Japan, pancrase. They're not doing chokes.
A lot of pancrase was fake.
I think most of it was fake.
Yeah, so.
They shouldn't even put that on your fighting record. But
now they can. Now it's real.
It is.
It's been real for several years. It's just that period when it was like Ken Shamrock, Boss Rutan, Frank Shamrock.
Funaki.
Yeah, those guys were pro wrestlers.
Right.
But
it was a hard style of wrestling. I mean, those guys are really hitting each other for sure.
Yeah. It's like old style wrestling.
Right. Carl Gotch.
Yeah.
That was
still fake, but.
So, but to answer that question, where would we be today? Like, so say if UFC number 1 happens, Hoist makes it to the finals, Gordeau knocks him out with a head kick. UFC, that's done. No more UFC after that. But just say if they decide, like, okay, we're not.
Where are we?
Yeah.
Me?
400 pounds.
Me? 400 pounds.
Tim Carpenter, 400 pounds. Marco, 300 pounds.
Collecting disability.
Social Security disability?
Some form of disability.
From being fat?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. That would be about it. That's as far as I can see.
You'd be eating cake icing out of the can?
Yeah.
All right.
I saw some. There's like a chick on YouTube, and she makes like videos about herself being fat, and she was like, she was talking about the things that she eats, and she puts milk on her ice cream.
What?
She says,
what
I
is the point?
always eat my ice cream.
Is she making a milkshake?
With milk. No, she eats it out of the bowl with milk in it, like cereal, but with ice cream instead of cereal.
I heard of a guy, he wanted to get fat, so what he would do is he would microwave Ben and Jerry's and drink it.
I've done that.
Wait,
I haven't microwaved it, but I've drank like half a pint of Ben and Jerry's after it was melted.
Wait, let's get into this. How amazing is that?
It's awesome. It's like it's like you have a glass of milk that's good. Right?
I'm not.
But if you
I
ever
haven't had a
have
glass of milk since I was a child.
I mean, I haven't either. But like you remember when you were a child, a glass of milk can be good. And tasty.
My parents were of the mindset that milk is for calves,
Babies.
not humans.
So I mean, it's similar to a milkshake, but it's not as thick, so it goes down easier.
Okay, so all right, so
it's like a milkshake you can drink way quicker, so you can get more in.
That's awesome. So, man, we covered a lot of questions today. We would, round back to Bill Bell, we'd all be wearing karate pants right now. We'd be wearing those Chuck Norris jeans with the stretch gusset from Century. You remember those?
We would be,
or hopefully
I am right now.
We'd be trying to head kick people. So there you have it, everybody.
Great questions.
5th episode, Ninja Rob. See you all next week.
Peace.
Tim and I would like to thank our sound engineer and studio owner, Devin Wade, for always doing a great job with the sound, but also the beautiful facility that we get to use here at SFX Studios. We'd also like to thank Eddie Lynn, who takes and donates his time to the podcast to do all the video editing and everything you see on our social media. So really appreciate that from Eddie Lynn. And we'd also like to thank our friend Ralphie Darden, aka DJ Major Taylor, who gave us the original music that we use. So you're welcome, Tim.
And almost just as importantly as everybody else that he mentioned, we would like to thank all of our listeners that submitted questions.
This is the Ninja Rob Podcast with Marco Perazzo and Tim Carpenter, the podcast for the true martial artist.